Hi everyone. Welcome to the June garden tour. We've made a lot of changes in the garden this month, so I can't wait to show you around. It's almost summertime, things are getting warm, and if you've never joined us on a garden tour before, we're shooting at golden hour right before sunset. Here's a little bird's eye view of the garden. I thought you might enjoy that. We live on a hill and we garden a lot on the hill as well, but down below you see tons of beautiful things growing. So in just a moment we'll get down there and show you around. Now the weather is heating up here in Southern California, and one thing about that is you're going to notice your lettuce start to bolt when the temperatures get over 80 degrees. So what bolting means is it shoots up this tall stalk kind of from the middle. This is the Paris cause romaine lettuce, and once it starts to bolt, it changes the flavor and it's kind of bitter. So, and then it'll start to flower and produce seeds, which you can let the seeds dry and then collect them to plant again next year. But what you want to do at this point is pull your lettuce out. Just cut it out at the base, pull it out, and then plant some heat tolerant greens in its place. You can plant kale and chard and New Zealand spinach. I have a whole heat tolerant green seed collection. So that way you can still have greens all summer long. Now let me show you something about my chard plant right back here. The great thing about chard is it's heat tolerant, and once it does start to bolt, like this one is right here, that's usually just a sign that it's maybe an older plant or it's gotten a little bit stressed. You can just break off the bolting stalk here. I don't know if I can break it without a pair of pruners, but you can break off or cut off your chard right at the base and it will grow right back. So with chard and kale, once it starts to bolt, don't pull it out, just prune it and you'll have chard and kale all summer. Now I do try and make use of all the space that I have here in the kitchen garden by growing on railings. I've got some greens growing on these Smart Pots wall saddle planters and trellises all over the place. So you want to make use of every single square inch of space when you're growing in a kitchen garden or on a patio or a deck or a balcony. Now over here, this is one of my favorite plants of the year. My neighbor actually, excuse me, Mac. Mac likes to sit right in the way. My neighbor gave me this little tomato. It's called a spoon tomato. And the plant is doing beautifully. There's tons of flowers. I'm starting to get a lot of little tiny tomatoes. I think this is probably the tiniest tomato ever. Would you look at that? Oh, here's a little ripe one that actually just fell off. They're super sweet, super tasty, and there's got to be hundreds of tomatoes on here. So this will be fun to have in the kitchen garden. Just pop out here and eat them for snacks. Now here in my 5-gallon CaliKim Smart Pots, I have a little mini salsa garden. We love fresh salsa, so I love having it here at my fingertips in the kitchen garden. Got my favorite little dwarf tomato, the tiny Tim, which is just really loaded down with tomatoes right now. And then I also popped in a jalapeno pepper here in the 5-gallon. It's a little bit crowded, but it's okay. It's gonna fill out and look great. And I did have some cilantro in here, but the heat caught to it, so I chopped it off. Cilantro is a cool weather herb. So if you plant it in the summertime, plant it in the shade of other vegetables. Now let's go on downstairs and we'll show you around down there. So I'm really excited to show you guys what I did with the rosemary that we pulled out on our garden redesign finale.
I didn't even know that you did this. When did you do this?
Oh, this week. I've been busy in the garden this week. But what I did was we actually gave a couple whole buckets full, or a big CaliKim 10-gallon Smart Pot, to a local restaurant that does farm-to-table food. So that was really fun to use a lot of it for that.
They loved it.
Oh, they absolutely loved it. But I also tied up some little bundles here on my trellis to dry. So my neighbor actually is a caterer. I'm going to give some to her, and then I'm going to, bottle it up and be able to use it in the kitchen or give it away to friends and family who want to have some fresh dried rosemary. So all I did was bundle it up with this thick twine. I love this thick twine. It's so natural and organic looking. I'll just hang it here in the sun to dry. So it'll be really fun.
I like this.
Now along the fence here, you guys might remember last year we had tons of sunflowers. So we've got sunflowers going again now. Not quite blooming yet, but hopefully by the July garden tour we'll have lots of beautiful yellow sunflowers, which to me are the quintessential summer flower, to show you on next month's garden tour. Now the biggest difference you might notice in the garden tour this month is, do you notice something missing? All the nasturtiums are gone. The heat took them out. They're a cool weather flower, so they do best in temperatures under 80 degrees. So it was kind of sad to take them all out.
Yeah.
Actually kind of got excited about it too once they were gone because everything had such a clean look again.
Yes.
And they were looking kind of ratty anyway. But here I completely pretty much redid this area. I'm not done yet. But what I'm doing all over the garden to replace the nasturtiums is the profusion zinnias, one of my very favorite. They're little now, not blooming, but again, hopefully next month they'll be blooming for you. But profusion zinnias are small little zinnias, and they come in so many colors. I got red, white, a mix, raspberry lemonade. So they will just kind of mound over the side of the raised bed here. They'll add such a beautiful pop of color. Now this area here, I actually decided to make my cutting garden this year, my flower cutting garden. So I only have one tomato plant in here now, but I'm gonna, I think, put some more zinnias, my dahlias, which I'll show you in just a moment, and some more cutting flowers in here. So it'll really be more like a pollinator's paradise. So let's move on to some other parts of the garden now. I'm really excited to show you. I love shooting videos at this time of the day. The colors just pop in the garden, and I'm loving how this lavender is looking here. If you guys want to grow a bee attractor, grow lavender. It's so beautiful. I love it especially in the blue CaliKim 5-gallon smart pot. It doesn't need a lot of water. It's actually pretty drought tolerant, so it's good to grow here in California. I don't even have it hooked up to drip irrigation. I just water it a couple of times a week. It blooms and it's good to go. But I can't wait to show you the beans. Remember the bean video we did maybe a month or so ago? Here's one spot I haven't quite had the heart to pull the nasturtiums out, but you can see they're completely fading fast in the heat. But there's beans starting to come on my bean plants. I love seeing the little teeny tiny vegetables come out. Look at these beans, aren't they so cute? These are the Royal Burgundy bush beans from my bean seed collection. Beautiful, beautiful purple flowers. We're gonna have a ton of beans from this little Shorty raised bed. So if you're planting beans in little Shorty, please let me know and let me know how your beans are doing. They're such an easy summer vegetable to grow.
Oh, I like the colors here.
Yeah, I'm loving the color of the garden right now. And it's fun to plant in the purple smart pots here. This is the Golden Jubilee tomato. There's 4 or 5 tomatoes on this plant. So super exciting. And you know, we don't get quite as much sun in the garden as I would like, so things seem to be growing a little bit slow, but it's so beautiful with the little Johnny jump ups or violas. I always get these pansies, I think they're called, spilling over the side. It just makes such a, what do you call it, kind of a whimsical look in the garden.
That's a perfect word.
I love it. Now we do have another little tiny Tim right here in a 5-gallon black smart pots. I do like to plant tiny Tims at different stages throughout the summer. So I have tomatoes, you know, at different stages to harvest. I never run out of these tiny Tims. These are perfect on salads, perfect for snacks. They just produce a ton, and I always like to have them around. Now you'll notice on all my plants, for the most part, I have a heavy layer of mulch. So I've got probably 3 inches of the shredded straw mulch here. Because we're in such a drought here in California, I've got to have mulch on all of my plants to reduce water evaporation, and so I don't have to water near as much. So give that a go if you're here in California. Mulch is especially important this year. One of my favorite things of the summer garden, one of our favorite things, both Jerry and myself, is the blackberries. And I cannot wait for the blackberries this year. They're absolutely going crazy. I fertilize them a lot sooner this year than I normally do. Hit them with some Vermistera Vitality and some fish fertilizer. Oh my gosh, I cannot tell you how many flowers and berries are in here. Jerry, do you see this?
I do.
It is crazy. It's gonna be a bumper crop. Oh look, there's some up way in there. I don't know if you can see those.
Oh yeah.
That are starting to turn color. I'm really excited, Jerry. These blackberries are already starting to turn. We're gonna have a much earlier crop this year than we did last year.
Yeah, I didn't even see those until now.
Crazy. Look at all of the berries on these plants. Now we pruned them back heavily over the winter time. You always got to prune your blackberries when they're dormant in the winter, and look at the results. Now I am really behind on planting my onions. I don't know if you ever get behind on things in your garden, but these were planted from seed a long time ago and really should have gone out into the garden in a raised bed probably a month or so ago, but hopefully my goal is to get them out this week. These are all from my onion seed collection. They've got red onions, beautiful white onions, different shaped onions, even bunching onions. They're actually looking really, really healthy. There's always so much to do in the garden, and this is just one of the things I haven't gotten to. But that's my goal for this week. Now, if you haven't planted onions from seed yet, go back and watch my video on planting onions from seed. Grab my onion seed collection. Bunching onions are a great one to plant this time of the year because they grow very, very fast. And by the way, I am having a sale this weekend, 20% off with the code SUMMER over at CaliKimGardenandHome.com. I'll tell you more about that at the end of the video. So come on over here, I want to show you my Dahlia tubers. So excited about dahlias this year. If you've never grown dahlias, look at them up online. They're gorgeous, beautiful flowers. I cannot wait. But I'm planting them from tubers for the very first time, and I hadn't decided yet where to put all my Dahlia tubers. So instead of planting them in the garden, I started them in my little CaliKim 1-gallon smart pots. So they're just starting to sprout here through the soil. You put the tubers down in there, cover them with a few inches of soil. Takes about a week or so for them to show. And then I have to decide where to plant them, but they bloom in about 8 weeks. So I'll show you some other dahlias that I did start out in the garden a few months ago that are a lot bigger. Oh, here's a little bean that popped up here. But these will be going, I'll show you in just a moment where I want to put these. One of the spots will be in my cut flower garden that I showed you in just a moment. But over here, guys, this has totally changed as well. Before I tell you about that, let me show you a dahlia that was planted out a couple of months ago. No, actually, probably just about a month ago. I don't have the date on the back. But see how it's just popping through the soil? It's about 6 inches tall. So it should be blooming, I want to say, in about 6 weeks. So I cannot wait for that. We'll definitely bring you along. So now we're moving over into the hill portion of the garden, which a lot has changed since the last garden tour. Let me just start right here. I always hate staring at my ugly hose. So I planted some arugula here to kind of grow up and hide the hose. It's grown kind of slow because it likes the cool weather. It's a little bit warm right now. And I planted it super thick, almost like a microgreen little carpet. So what I need to do now is go in and kind of cut every couple inches to thin it out so it has a little bit more space to grow. Not only will it hide my hose, but I can also eat it as well. So the main thing about this garden bed that's gone, again, you're right, the nasturtiums. So pulled them all out, planted some cucumbers on this beautiful, I love this trellis, it's called the Zenith trellis by gardeners. And the cucumbers are climbing up just absolutely beautifully, starting to wind their little tendrils around here. Now, cucumbers don't always grab onto the trellis. Sometimes they need a little bit of help. So I usually kind of help them out a little bit with my little stretchy tie tape, or you can use some string or some twine. And then once they start winding their way up, the tendrils will grab on and you should be good to go. But I spaced my cucumbers about 6 inches or so apart, and they're just gonna grow beautifully here. Now, one thing I just planted this week, I'm so excited, is my tiny Tim garden. Okay, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tiny Tim tomatoes in here. So I'll have lots of tiny Tims this summer. And in between, I planted basil. Basil doesn't always like super hot temperatures, so the tiny Tims will kind of shade the basil, and I started all these from seed from my herb seed collection, and kind of shield them from the hot sun in the afternoons. Then along the edge of the garden bed, instead of nasturtiums, again I have the profusion zinnias, and these were all started from seed. Just pop them in this week. They love the heat. So if you want a heat-loving flower, you can choose the large zinnias from my zinnia seed collection or the little small profusion zinnias. Now right here next to the profusion zinnias was a huge chard plant. I just chopped it off, and we're already starting to see some new little growth coming out the sides. Now I am so excited to show you guys the sunflower forest. Remember that from last summer? It's going to be fun for you to see how much it's grown since the May garden tour. These sunflowers were all volunteers. Planted them a couple of years ago, and they just come back year after year. This one is taller than me. It's probably over 6 feet tall. I think last year it was probably 15 feet tall or so. Not quite blooming, but it's got some buds coming out. And while we're here, I've got to show you guys the scarlet runner beans. I forget which video we talked about these on, probably the bean video. But here they're growing up the sunflower stalk that I left in from last year. Just planted them at the base a couple months ago. So we'll have beautiful yellow sunflowers. The hummingbirds and the bees will love the scarlet runner beans. We'll have beans to eat, sunflowers to enjoy. You really can't go wrong.
I always like this part of the garden.
I love it.
Yeah, it's always so tall and you kind of lose yourself in it.
Sometimes I come out here with my cup of coffee and just kind of sit here and I feel like I'm hiding out from everybody, but it's just kind of fun to sit here and enjoy the garden for a few minutes. I like to grow up whenever I can to make best use of my space. Tons of garden arches here on the hill, which I absolutely love. This one is going to be my tomato arch. So we've got the sun gold tomato over here, which if you've never had the sun gold, it's like eating candy. Amazing tomato. So I just kind of am winding them up this mesh arch here as they grow. And over here we have the chocolate stripes. Jerry, you got to get a shot of this tomato over here. It's around on this side. Now this is kind of an experiment. I've typically grown cherry tomatoes on my ladder mesh trellises. This is a chocolate stripes, which this one is sizing up to be a pretty good sized tomato. So we'll see how it does here. I always tell you guys, experiment in the garden. Hopefully this ladder mesh will hold it up. I will probably keep it pruned pretty well just to manage the size here. But it's gonna be really fun when these two tomatoes kind of meet in the middle. And we've got a whole tomato tower going. Now I gotta show you guys the A-frame trellis for the watermelon. Remember that video? It's always fun on the garden tours to kind of give you guys updates on plants that we've done videos on throughout the month. So this watermelon is actually growing a little bit slower than I had hoped. We have had a lot of June gloom this month, which in California that means it's kind of cloudy and overcast in the mornings from the marine layer. Then it all burns off and we get a lot more sun. But I also realized that my flower pots here were right here on this stone wall, were blocking the sun for half the day. So I just moved those, but you can see the watermelon are definitely growing. So pretty soon I'll be winding them around the trellis. They'll be growing up and over. And I've got to do another video on how I'm going to support those watermelon once they grow to size. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now on last month's garden tour, I showed you the passion fruit vine, which is still going crazy. The flowers are so beautiful, you guys. You've got to get in close to see this one. I've been admiring them every day. And the little passion fruit grows right out of the center. Can you see that? But there's tons of passion fruit under here. The passion fruit vine is just loaded down with passion fruit. So excited. It's the first year we've ever had a really good harvest from the passion fruit. Look at all these fruits in here. And if you can get in here and just scan with your camera, they are everywhere. So hopefully by next month, we'll be able to show you guys some ripe ones or do a harvest. Look, they're all in here. Oh there's so many. Over here, this little branch alone has like 6 or 7. So if you guys know any good passion fruit recipes, I think we're going to be needing some.
I think so too.
Passion fruit drink, passion fruit juice, passion fruit yogurt. Can you make passion fruit pie? We might need to. Okay. Oh wait, look at this huge one over here. Oops. There's more.
Oh my goodness.
Oh wow.
We both missed this.
They're supposed to turn purple when they're ripe and kind of fall off the vine very easily.
That'll be a video.
Oh yeah, you can count on it. Now I did want to show you a little shorty filled with beans. Remember how we planted this on the bean video? Wow, these guys are growing fast. I love how the little shorty looks with the beans in it. If you haven't grabbed a little shorty from CaliKimGardenandHome.com, you want to grab one. They're a 3-foot fabric raised bed made by Smart Pots, the same fabric that the other Smart Pots are made from, and they're just a growing machine. And I did cover it with tulle because I was having problems with the squirrels and the birds picking out the little seedlings. I love seeing little seedlings just pop through the soil. They just look so pretty here with a little fence we have around the beans for support. You can see something has been nibbling on the leaves. But the great thing is beans grow so fast that they're going to grow right back, even if they get eaten by bugs. Look how beautiful these look. So go back and watch that bean video for all the info on how to plant beans all season long in your garden. Now here I have a garden bed behind me that's pretty much empty. And I like to have a few empty garden beds so as things start to grow, little seedlings start to grow, that I've started indoors or started outside, I have somewhere to put them. So there were a ton of nasturtiums in here that we pulled out, amended the garden soil, and lo and behold, all kinds of little things started popping up. So mostly nasturtiums. These are a little teeny tiny baby nasturtiums. So if you live somewhere where you can't grow nasturtiums in the summertime, this area is pretty much shaded. So it's obviously pretty good for growing nasturtiums right now. Plant them in a shaded area and hopefully you'll have better success. But I also have, I'm pretty sure these are borage. Borage is actually an herb, but it's in my Bring on the Pollinators warm season flower collection. It's a beautiful purple flower, kind of a bush type looking flower. Smells like cucumber. You can actually eat the leaves, eat the flowers. The bees absolutely love them. So I'll probably pull out the nasturtiums, leave the borage in, and I'm thinking about maybe planting some of my dahlias back here, but I think it might be a little bit too shady for them, so I haven't quite decided. Tune into next month's garden tour for all the info. But I do have to show you guys right over here. This is where I relocated the rosemary bush from our garden redesign video. Whoops.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm okay. Tripped over a little shorty. Now, this rosemary bush looks totally different. I decided to cut it like in fourths almost. It was way too big, way too overgrown. Pruned it back severely. But rosemary has a way of growing back almost from the dead. So put it here on the side. I didn't really have a good spot to put it. Dug a big hole for it. Hopefully it'll take root and grow. If not, I have rosemary in another part of the garden, so definitely stay tuned. Let me know what you think about this spot here.
Oh, this is the one that we just undug?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I didn't even realize
So
that.
rosemary I have drying on the stairs. The huge bush that we pulled up from our little fire pit area. If you don't have a lot of space to grow zucchini, grow it vertically. I know that might go against everything that you've ever heard, but you can grow zucchini vertically. And what you do is, this is a zucchini plant, is you just kind of feed the leaves up the trellis as it grows. Now here it's on a little, like a 4-foot tower. You can grow it on a tomato cage. And zucchini only actually need the leaves that are above the first set of flowers or the first fruit. So as it grows, you can actually trim off the leaves at the base of the stem to kind of manage the space. Keeps the plant healthier, gives more airflow, really does help prevent and control powdery mildew, and it'll give you a lot more zucchini. In fact, I think we have, oh yes we do. Just saw this, Jerry. Our first little baby zucchini on here. Let me see if I can pull the leaves away so you can see it. It's right there, little teeny tiny, right there.
Oh, I see it back there.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm getting that or not.
So crazy enough, this plant is kind of partially shaded. So again, it's not growing real fast. Wait till I show you some squash that's in full sun all day. You will not believe how big it is. Now, little shorty is good for growing all kinds of vegetables. Here we have a tiny Tim, absolutely loaded down. There's probably 100 little tomatoes in here, not ripe yet, but they will be soon. Just growing in a little tomato cage, super easy to grow, pop in a little shorty and you've got a garden here. And the cucumber, I'm so excited about the cucumber. One of my very favorite summer vegetables. Growing here on a teepee trellis. There's probably 3 or 4 plants in here. Look at this, guys. I'll probably be picking that, I'm gonna say within a week or so.
Yeah, we got a lot going on
We
back
do,
here.
It's so much fun. And here I've got the
that.
cucumbers tied up. Sunflower stalk trellis, I mean, you can't go any freer, if that's a word, or easier than that. Tied to the top with twine, and you've got a little garden here. The peppers are really bouncing back. I think I told you last month there were tons of holes in them. So starting to get some flowers and peppers on here. Little teeny tiny pepper right here. But one of the things I'm very excited about, I planted a ton of zinnias back here in the back of the planter. Red, pink, a salmon color. These are from my new zinnia seed collection.
Those are pretty.
Oh my gosh, they're so beautiful. And they bring in the butterflies like crazy. And I want to show you my favorite kind right up here. It's called the Scarlet Flame Zinnia. So beautiful. Now zinnias are one of those flowers that you can grow all summer long. The cool thing about them is When you cut them and bring them into the house, which you want to do when they're probably about this tall, they actually branch out and grow more zinnias. The color of these are just amazing. You can't beat the bright red, the yellow center. So you see how this flower is kind of dead? You definitely want to take that off. So you cut it here right where the leaves kind of connect, just using my hose link pink pruners, snipping them off. And then you're going to grow some brand new flowers in its place. Now, the cool thing is, you guys, I am offering a free zinnia seed packet with every order. With my sale, 20% off with the code SUMMER. So that sale is going to go until Monday, June 13th. You get a free zinnia seed packet so you can plant some zinnias in your own garden too. But they're flowers that you can succession plant. So you can plant them like once a month or so, then you'll have zinnias all summer long and beautiful cut flowers to bring into the house, and brings in the pollinators like crazy. Like I mentioned before in the sunflower forest, they have a way of popping up all over the garden. Sunflower grew here last year, another sunflower popped up this year. This thing is well over 6 feet tall. It is going to have so many sunflowers on it. It's a branching variety, which means it branches out, and each one of these branches will have individual flowers. So I'm really hoping, again, next month in the July garden tour, we have lots and lots of sunflowers to show you. Now we come to the best part of the garden tour, our new whole garden space. Now, the raised bed kitchen garden that you guys came along with us on the raised bed garden series is just exploding with growth. Remember how I told you I was going to show you some squash that was in full sun? This, believe it or not, is scallop squash. Usually they're small little plants, but because this spot gets a good 8 hours of sun each day, these leaves are absolutely humongous.
Wow.
Remember when we planted these, they were like little teeny tiny baby squash?
Yes.
In fact, I need to go through here and thin these out. There's way too many squash in here for this area. And I can also, like I was telling you guys, to cut some of the bottom leaves off to provide more airflow. There's little flowers starting to form here. I don't know if you can see them, but I think we're going to have a ton of squash from this area. Now, the good thing is they're kind of shading the basil, which actually I think it needs a little bit more sun, but that'll kind of help the basil protect it from the heat. The beans are coming along in here, Jerry. There's some little teeny tiny green beans in here. And the watermelon are starting to grow up the A-frame. I'm so excited. These are sugar babies. So these are small little watermelon. You can actually support sugar babies with nylon pantyhose or little t-shirts as they grow up over the trellis. But again, these were like little teeny tiny 2-inch plants. Yes. And then underneath here, I've got some greens, some lettuce, some arugula. So as the watermelon and the cucumbers grow up over the trellis, the greens, which like a little bit of shade in the summer, they don't like it hot, will be shaded under here, and hopefully that'll help me grow more greens. So this is some Grand Rapids lettuce, little teeny tiny Paris cause, arugula. And then what I did is too, around the edges, I planted some strawberries. That was after the video series was complete, but I popped strawberries in here too. So we'll have strawberries spilling over the side. So we've got our thrillers, fillers, and our spillers.
That's gonna be fun.
Be very fun. The sunflower in the corner here, the gray stripe to bring in the pollinators, California giants. So it's really fun to see this 4x8 raised bed just explode with growth. And I really want to hear from you all. If you built the raised bed with us, watch the Raised Bed Garden series, let me know how yours is doing and what veggies you're growing in your raised bed too. Thanks so much for joining us on the June Garden Tour. It's been so much fun to show you around. Now, if you want to know how to build this amazing raised bed, you want to grab a copy of my book, The First Time Gardener, Raised Bed Gardening. It has all the how-tos on this written down for you, as well as several other raised beds. And grab my new seed collection too, the Raised Bed Kitchen Garden Seed Collection, for all the seeds I'm growing here. When you buy it as a seed book bundle, it's already at a discounted price. When you use the code SUMMER, you get an additional 20% off until Monday, June 13th. And don't forget, you also get that free zinnia seed packet. Such a beautiful flower.
Now, I'm not going to say what it is, but even since our last video, there's something new here in this shot. Can anyone guess what it is? Well, Kim, why don't you say?
Well, look over here. We just put the jasmine trees in today, and it smells heavenly. I wish you guys could smell it. Absolutely love it. Been very busy in the garden this week,
Yes.
and it actually kind of hides our shed, which I don't really love staring at when we're sitting down here.
That's not bad.
As it grows,
It's
it will
gorgeous.
fill in even more. And Jerry, we've already spent several enjoyable nights here just looking up at the garden, and I want to get another shot so you can see what we're looking at every evening. So hopefully you all are creating a beautiful space in your garden. Let us know in the comments if you were inspired by any of the videos this month, especially the garden redesign. We really appreciate you joining us for the June garden tour. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next video.